Yay, welcome. So excited to be here. So hi everyone, I'm Sue Anderbois. I am a board member with the local return, and I'm joined with Lanre Ajakaiye. And Lanre, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about the project you're working on?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Sue, I'm so happy that you attempted my last name as we talked about, because I know it can be pretty treacherous. So that was a pretty good pronunciation. So hello, hello everyone. Lanre Ajakaiye. I'm the president and CEO of 25 Bough Street Development, which is at 25 Bough Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02909 in the Olneyville section of the city. I am building a commercial mixed-use development. When it's all said and done, it will be a whopping 22,000 square feet. It takes up a corner city block. Those development and that use cases of the building will specifically be to empower the community. So use cases include what I call a futures hub, or what I'm branding a futures hub, which will teach financial literacy, empowerment, career awareness, self-awareness, principles like nonviolence, conflict resolution, with a focus on third grade all the way through high school. So that will be summers, weekends, after school. I'm not in competition with public schools or charter schools. I'm not in that fray. I view myself as academic enrichment. So things that they're not getting in school, they will learn at Bough Street at a time when there's typically a degradation of knowledge. So that's the Futures Hub. Great organizations that will be part of the Futures Hub and have their home at 25 Bough Street, and have already committed to do so, are the Financial Literacy Youth Initiative with Marcy Reyes. I knew that they didn't have a home. They were operating virtually. So I went to Marcy in 2017 and I told her, hey, I just put an offer on a building. And when I close on it, I want you to be in the building, because I was thinking way ahead, right? So the other group that will be in there is Winner Circle program, which teaches augmented reality, virtual reality, through Oculus glasses, and programming through what's called a Unity language and other languages. They've been written about in Rhode Island Monthly. Juan Rodriguez is a proprietor there. He's phenomenal. Kids will learn a skill set that's in demand, future facing, and makes them really competitive, not just in the Rhode Island economy, but what I consider, which is what we're in, and some people don't realize it, is in a global workforce and kind of competitive environment. So they'll be in there. Arnell Millhouse, who's well known, has a program called Career Devs, which, in a year, you can get programming skills and go to gainful employment, and they don't charge you for their tuition until you get gainful employment. It's pretty incredible. He strips out all the kind of things that aren't needed in a 4-year program, makes it a year program, and then has coordinated with companies for what they need. So these, youth are then making 50 to 120,000 a year. Career Devs will have a satellite office in 25 Bow Street that's already been negotiated. Foundation is at the precipice, I will say, of renting 1,000 square feet. The ink hasn't dried, which is the only reason why I'm not saying the name yet. Within 25 Bow Street. So if people are like, hey, who's going to be there? Well, there's already people that are going to be there with a lease that's already out. For a great foundation who's doing great work in the community, and will bring a lot of diverse kind of organizations within the space as well. So Futures Hub, just the Futures Hub, is going to have all that going on, which is pretty awesome. The Empowerment Group, which is a nonprofit 501c3 by Prince Hoff, Mike Manzi, they'll be teaching development and real estate entrepreneurship. So Mike is a very successful real estate guy, successful in, he probably has 15 rental homes or something like that, and passively has been able to leave a corporate job from doing it. He'll be teaching those principles. Prince is an amazing developer, so Prince will be there as well. That's all just in the Futures Hub, in that space.
Oh my gosh.
To create what I think is a pretty powerful and incredible program. My background, I was a real estate broker in Manhattan. I'm a Rhode Island native, born and raised My parents, immigrants, came here in the 70s into what was at the time Hartford Projects to do their business management and marketing degrees at Johnson & Wales and Roger Williams. Knew nobody in the world in the United States of America, got their degrees, worked in factories, and paid for their degrees themselves. So pretty proud of them. So I came in only a couple, like less than a mile away from where 25 Bough Street is. So it's a pretty incredible thing to purchase a commercial building there, which was my father and I's dream. My father passed away this year. So my father and I's dream to purchase a commercial building. The other use cases that will be at Bough Street will be what I'm calling the Cultural Experience Museum. And keep in mind, when I say I'm calling it, I've had this concept since 2016. So this is years ago. But the Cultural Experience Museum, Sue, think of it like a Smithsonian Boston Museum of Science, but 2D, 3D, where essentially within that space, we can program installations. I'm talking to a company in the UK that you can walk in and they build a dome in your building as long as you have a 9-foot clearance, and everything around you is like 3D. So let me give you an example. So if you said for local return, hey, Lanre, at local return, we want to do a meeting that's more interactive. We want to do something where we program and really make people get what local return is about. Then I would work with you and the developer would work with you to build an interactive like meeting installation where when your people came in, they're like immersed in everything you're doing. And this dome is incredible. I actually drove to New York to go see it, to the showroom, because they have a showroom in New York, although they're a UK company. And it was nuts. Like I was in this thing and everything around me was moving and it was just incredible. But I see doing installations that will fuel cultural tourism. So I've already met with the state, with Kristen Adamo, shout out to Kristen Adamo and the crew. I met with Stephanie Fortunato, shout out to Steph and the crew. They all came down with Micah, with Gina and all that crew to see Bough Street. But the vision that I have is that it can not only fuel learning, right? So I envision school buses coming down to a parking lot, which I just closed on last Friday. Woo-hoo! 40, 50 spaces, which is a block and a half from Bough Street. I was quietly working on that for the last 7 months because to me, phase one of Bough Street was acquiring the building and that parking lot. I just never told anybody about that parking lot until I closed. So I closed on that, but I envisioned school buses coming and, parking in the parking lot, then walking their children to installations that we can do during Black History Month, during Hispanic Heritage Month, during Women's History Month. We can do installations that are educational, but that will also fuel cultural tourism. So we have the dividend of a lot of we have a cultural tapestry here in Rhode Island that pretty much I don't believe is as tapped as it could be. So, we have the history of Italians settling Federal Hill. We have Polish people used to be big in Olneyville that people don't know. We have Babe Ruth used to play in Olneyville. The greatest baseball player of all time played in Olneyville. And most people are like, what, really? Yeah, he played in Olneyville for the Providence Grays, right? So we have a lot of history that's untapped with Latinx, African-American, African heritage. We have all of that. Now, if we could call that into experiences and installations, we can then take it and market it internationally for people to come here. On Bough Street, one of the developers that's there, he's building a 40-room boutique hotel right next to me, which a lot of people don't know. He's from Boston. On the same corner of Bough Street, yeah, they make that look that you just made, Sue.
Yeah.
On the same corner of 25 Bows, you drive in. Next time you drive in, even if you go today, drive by slowly. What you'll see is the building there has chandeliers in it. It has a pizzeria to the right, a falafel restaurant, micro businesses that have already signed up, like bubble tea, right? And upstairs is like an open food court. That's all on Bough Street. So, if you do this cultural tourism, now the way that I look at it is I can help to play my part in fueling the economy for my neighbors who have restaurants, who have the boutique hotel, and then it's like it's going different ways, and everybody is benefiting from one activity that's there, but they're also benefiting for their own establishments, and it makes the whole community richer, right?
Yeah.
So that's the Cultural Experience Museum. That's the second use case. The other use case that will be there is a health and wellness cafe. So I will be looking for a health and wellness provider. I have, at press time, have met with a company that I'll keep under wraps for now about 4 times. We've had very, very great meetings, who wants to partner on the health and wellness portions of 25 Bough Street. We're settling on exactly how that is, because they've had a change. So if you're a Jeopardy player, they've had a change of CEO this year. So we had to wait for that change to happen, but they're $1 billion health and wellness corporation. So it only made sense to me, since Olneyville is a designated health equity zone by the Rhode Island Department of Health, where life expectancies are 9 years less than the rest of the state, to do a health and wellness offering, so that people have not only a health and wellness choice, but they also have, at the end of Bough Street, Dyke Street, they're building a bridge that's going to connect the Westminster and the Broadway neighborhoods. The end of that bridge is right next to my new parking lot.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so the bike path and the DOT project that you see a lot of construction there now, where it's going to end with the bike paths and the walking paths, is at the end of Dyke Street. So the 20 Dyke Street is what I just bought. So that health and wellness cafe will be within an eye shot to that, so to me, it just makes sense. And when you come off of maybe 4 to 6 miles of biking path, and, or you've been walking from your neighborhood and you end up at Dyke Street, that there's a health and wellness offering that you could go into and buy your, naked juice, or, healthy local kind of providers that are there. I'll be looking for all kind of local providers that make things to have there, and to really bolster the Rhode Island community, the local community. That's a plan that I have with this health and wellness. Although I won't be running the health and wellness, I'll be heavily leaning on the person who operates it to make sure that they allow local people to be able to display their products and stuff. I want to have as many local kind of people as possible that are in the health and wellness category. So that's that piece. I had a great conversation last week for what may be the other use case, with a phenomenal banking institution who is not presently in Olneyville, and I knew they weren't. So I went after them to set up a small branch in the location. So I am on their top 3 shortlist of places that look good for them to set up in. Until that ink is dry, I won't mention that either. But it looks good for that banking institution that is not presently in Olneyville, but is a Rhode Island banking institution to be there. So yeah, so that's the other use case.
This is so exciting, Lanre. And
Yeah.
I love how like integrated it is with the community, and how many community members have been there, and how you want to be so mutually supportive. I think I remember when we talked a few weeks ago, you mentioned also maybe the financing of the project might also be really community dependent. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the financing, and let me say the other use cases: co-working, co-working space, no worries, for entrepreneurship and innovation, and then event space for community events, cultural celebrations, and corporate events. So, Local Return could book there on a community calendar and be able to have a great facility that has parking now. Oh my gosh, I'm so
That's
excited.
so great.
That's parking, that has parking, and be able to do something. And what I'm going to do with some of my community spaces, when you book, a portion of the proceeds will go to local neighborhood organizations. So more to come about that. So your question now.
Oh, there's so many use cases. Sorry, I need to cut you off, but oh my gosh, there's so much in this building. It's so exciting.
Well, yeah. So the event space is the use case, but what I'm consciously doing is making sure I'm tying it to social impact. That's everything I'm doing, is basically making it so it's social impact, or it's addressing and speaking to gaps that are in the community. So, when you talk about every single one of the use cases, it trails back to gaps that are in the community. So that's how I look at it, right?
Yeah.
So entrepreneurship and innovation, the co-working space, those are gaps in the community. Financial empowerment is a gap in the community. Cultural education, yes, they've recently just passed the in the city in Providence, the African American history bill to be taught in schools. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. So that just passed. It's H docket H blah 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 whatever. But it's going to be the most comprehensive African American history education and curriculum in the U.S. on the backs of people like Keith and Sony Stokes of Rhode Island Black Heritage Society. So that just passed. So things like that. But to answer your question, the financing model for 25 Bough Street, I'm the first person in New England to be approved for what's called Regulation C as in Charles, F as in Frank. Regulation CF came out under the Obama Jobs Care Act in 2012. And essentially what it allows you to do, what's special about it, is it allows you to get financing from non-accredited investors. That's what makes it incredibly special. What's a non-accredited investor? It's about 97% of people. So if you're making under like 350,000, and you don't make more than that, more than likely you're a non-accredited investor, and that's trillions and trillions of dollars. That's the local average person who is, their income isn't that high. They're not in the top 1%. That is, and by virtue of that, there are a lot of instruments and financial vehicles that they can't partake in because they're saved for people that are accredited investors. So Regulation CF, when you qualify for it with the SEC's Securities Exchange Commission, you are then able to offer your offering to non-accredited investors in a legal way, a regulated way. So that's what I did. So I actually am the first, again, as I mentioned, first person in New England to crowdfund real estate, which the Jobs Act, it actually changed this year, where previously you could only raise 1 million. If you go that route, you can actually raise 5 million. So that changed, I think, March 15th of this year, March 15, 2021, where you can raise up to 5 million. Again, you have to go through a process in what's called a FINRA registered portal. So the FINRA registered portals are ones like Start Engine, WeFunder. WeFunder is the one I did. They go back and forth, but WeFunder is the #1 crowdfunding, WeFunder.com source right now. Start Engine is #2, last I checked. And then there is other ones like Republic as well, which is pretty big. Start Engine is backed by Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. So they're pretty big. Yeah, they're pretty big funding portals. And what it does, Sue, it's the pathway for unlocking, in my mind, the community and your network and your community and your zealous advocates, right? So when I started, I went through a bunch of paperwork and I finally got approved. So now I think I'm a pro at navigating it now, because I don't have much hair to lose. So that's the good thing. That's the good thing in this process. So, I basically did the offering because I wanted to make sure that the community could not only engage, but they could be activated. So it's different. So I'm way past community engagement. I'm at community activation. When I put the offering out there, I had never raised or asked for anything before. Like, everything I've ever done has been bootstrapped. So I am, with my wife, co-founder of Rise Women's Leadership Conference. I helped her to build it. She's the executive director. We built it from scratch. Now we get about 1,000 women that come to the convention center every year, 34 corporate sponsors. I built it from scratch. So we never went to anybody to do that. I'm also the guy who came up with the New England Family Fun Festival at the convention center back in the day on April School Vacation Week, until my rides vendor went out of business. So I did it for 4 years. My first year I had 6,232 people. I bootstrapped that as well. Like it was like Rocky Point indoors. So Regulation CF, as I came out with my campaign for 25 Bough Street, I didn't know what to expect. So quite frankly, I never raised like that. I never went to anybody and said, I'm doing this, invest in me, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I found, it was actually overwhelming. Like I was like, wow, I just was taken aback by how much the community wanted the use cases, how much the community believed in the use cases, and how much the community believed in me. Just in what I'm doing. They know my past kind of experience executing high level things. And I was able to raise 206,000. So it's absolutely amazing. It'll show 153 on the website. 53,000 of it was friends and family in a private, because WeFunder lets you privately before it goes out to the public. Let whoever in your network you want to privately invest in it first, and then it goes out to everybody else. But 206,000 is the amount I raised in like 3 to 4 months, which is almost like if you're running for like mayor or something, right?
Yeah.
You have to raise about 200,000 to 300,000 a quarter to actually be even viable, right? Because you need like 1 to 3 mil to run your campaign. So I thought it was pretty cool. And you know, the commentary that you'll see on the WeFunder site is just a euphoria. It's people are really, really excited by it because they're like, wow, you know, this is needed. It meets needs that my children have, or I wish I had this when I was growing up. This building is incredible. So I'm pretty excited. The community is jazzed. 188 investors from the community who want to see this come to fruition. So it's not a project that I have to say, oh, maybe the community wants it, or maybe this is what the community wants. No, they've spoken loud and clear.
Yeah.
So it's just who's listening, but they've spoken loud and clear. The testimonials are on there about either myself or the project. So yeah, so that's the vehicle I chose. It's been written about in Yahoo, Finance, Afrotech, Market Watch, so it's gone nationwide. I've had, you know, podcasts that I've done in Atlanta, Mississippi, Boston. I'm doing a Men of Color conference October 24th, I believe. That's a Saturday. So that's coming up as well. So it's gone national, you know, from Little Rhodey. I'm only the 4th or 5th African American in the nation to navigate this.
Oh, wow.
Like not just Rhode Island, in the nation. Like I
Yeah.
think there's only 4 other ones that have navigated Reg CF in the way that I'm doing. So it's gone national for that, you know, for that reason. From Little Rhodey, we're an innovation engine here from a native. So that's the vehicle I chose. That's why I chose it. You know, it was as little as $100 to buy shares in the campaign. So
Yeah.
55 cents a share, $100 minimum, and it gave you a vested stake in the campaign, and to build the building. So I always like to tell people, not only are you investing, right? You're also you can drive by at any time and see your investment being built. Like there's, or you can follow the social media, because I post videos and different things at different stages. So it's an investment like no other. You know, when you talk about local return, you know, that's a local return like nobody's business.
Yeah.
That, you know, you can keep driving by and seeing your investment in action.
Yeah.
So I think it's a model that other people can use in the future, for sure. And yeah, does that
Awesome.
answer your question?
Yeah, totally. And
Cool.
anything about your experience doing the CF, did anything surprise you? Like what were you expecting that happened?
Everything surprised me. I had never done it before.
Yeah,
I was like,
sorry.
man, there's a lot of paperwork. But I had a great attorney that navigated it, who's now, you know, part of my network. And now I know if I ever wanted to do one again, like how to do it, I feel like I'm a pro at. Like I know what's coming at me, and I know what paperwork they need. I could do it a lot faster the second time if if I ever wanted to do a campaign again, which I may. A lot of people have been asking me that didn't get into the fundraising round. Somebody asked me just yesterday, Lanre, is there any way that I can invest in your campaign? I have 5,000 and I want to put it down. And I'm like, sorry, it's closed. I said, I might do another one in the future, but right now I'm waiting on other things, right? So yeah, so what surprised me at first was the paperwork, Sue. It was, quite frankly, I was surprised by, and people said I shouldn't be, but maybe it's just who I am. I was surprised by the amount of support. Like the amounts people were donating, it just blew me away.
Yeah.
Like it just blew me away. Like some were like, some donated 250, 500, and I had different campaign perks, but some donated 5,000, 10, 15, 2,500. And they're like, Lanre, I believe in you. I want to see this come through. Everything you've ever done in the past, you've always executed at a high level. And we know you have your heart and your interests are in the right place. I was surprised by the amount of investments, quite frankly, because I'm an immigrant's kid, first generation. I don't come with a silver spoon in my mouth. Everything I have, I earned. By hard work, by drive, by dedication, by discipline. I was surprised. I've never raised, $250,000. So
And in
yeah,
just a couple months. Yeah.
yeah, just a couple months. Yeah, that surprised the hell out of me. And other people, maybe they're like, oh, it's 500,000. I expect it. I didn't grow up like that. So I grew up as, immigrant's kid. I can still taste the peanut butter and too much jelly from free lunches in the city of Providence. I worked at Lincoln Woods. I grew up a little bit different. So, yeah, everything surprised me, Sue. And I don't take anything for granted. And I really appreciate the people that supported it. I'm going to do something in the city of Providence that's never been done before. And it's not about me. It's about the people that I'm going to power. That's kind of what I'm working on. When somebody says, hey, Lanre, what's the best thing to you about this? I operate on what I call a social impact KPI. I'm really trying to see how many lives I can change or steer to different directions or different outcomes with the knowledge I have. I've been lucky. I've navigated. I had two parents, high school sweethearts, incredible people. They weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination. Went to classical high school, homecoming king, all state, then went to University of Rhode Island, did well there, then, got some fellowships. And I've been lucky that I've navigated life the way I have, but I realize not everybody has that same model or that same opportunity. So, Bough Street, quietly, I estimate 25 to 35,000 people a year will get benefit from Bough Street across the use cases, across event space, where I expected for 6-7 months out of the year, every Saturday is probably going to be booked. Fridays will be booked. I already have rented out some Monday through Wednesday space.
Wow.
Already. Yeah, I'm renting it up front. What I call remnant space. Yeah, so that's what surprised me, Sue. I'm surprised by all of it. It's not a journey I've been on before. Real estate certainly is one. I was a real estate broker in Manhattan. I did flips in places like Maryland, Rhode Island. So real estate knowledge I have, but I haven't been on this journey that I'm on, but I love it. Absolutely love it. Like, it's a passion for me in the development. It's a passion for me because it blends community. I'm also the director of Team Providence Travel for Young Men. So I have 60 young men that play for me, who are Latinx and African American, although we don't exclude anybody. That just happens to be who comes out to try out. And if depending on when this comes out, we have tryouts this weekend.
Oh, nice.
But I say that because it gives me a lens and a perspective to from a youth's eyes of how they see their city, what they need. It keeps me grounded in just a lot of different realities that are going on out there. Even, this recently, I was the judge, one of the judges for Miss USA and Miss Rhode Island Teen USA, right? And, shout out to to that staff, and Teresa Gonya, who does an amazing job. But what I got from that perspective was a totally different kind of understanding of what young women need, right? Of the challenges they go through, body shaming, bullying. So as they were answering their questions, I was like, wow, all of those insights in my mind, I was writing down and I'm going to take into the 25 Bough Street experience. So when you think of 25 Bough Street, some people think of it as a commercial development. I think of it as a family and community empowerment model. That's what I call it. I wrote about that like 3 years ago, that spaces like this need to be created that empower the community. I'm not going to be exclusionary, and we're not going to be exclusionary to anybody. Anybody, I don't care what you look like, can come to 25 Bough Street, and you're going to feel like, wow, this is a place I can be. I love being here. It's all accepting. I don't care about race, gender, sex, any of that, because that's just who I am as a person. So my building is going to reflect that. So I think your question was about a surprise, but I went off about a tangent. Everything is surprising me right now. So the taxation is surprising me. The fees that some people charge are surprising me. All of that surprising me right now. Yeah. So, but most importantly, the excitement wherever I go in the community, whether I'm on the east side, whether I'm on the west end, whether I'm on the south side, whether I'm Elmwood, anywhere in this great city and state. What's surprising me is how excited people are about my project. They're like, Lanre, there's nothing like this that's out there. And I'm so glad you're doing it. And I can't wait for our kids to be able to access it in our community. So, yeah.
Well, I can say I was excited when I heard you first talking about it a few weeks ago. So thank
you.
I've been telling everyone, oh my God, you have to meet the Lanre. So
that was a fun session. That was a real fun session. I'm glad you guys put that together. Yeah.
Okay, so our last segment is we do kind of a lightning round, and so it's quick responses, just like a phrase or a word for each of these questions. So what's the first word or phrase that comes to mind when I say local?
When you say local, food, or so Dell's awful. Dell's awful are the first things that come to my mind. Are they supposed to be? I don't know, but that's the first things that come to my mind when you say local.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
What's the first word or phrase that comes to mind when I say wealth?
Wealth, happiness, family, love, to me is wealth. There's a color that comes into my mind, unfortunately, when you say wealth. But for me, the first thing that comes into my mind when you say wealth is that balance of happiness, health, family. That to me is true wealth, because at the end of the day, everything else we don't leave with, we can just pass it on. But if you have those things while you have your life, you're truly wealthy. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. What's your go-to local business? What's your favorite place to go, or one of your favorites?
One of my favorites. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of them.
One or two, yeah.
One or two? Okay, so if I need something to purchase, it's Copa Menswear. Shout out to Copa. Like if I need a suit or something to dress up in, I love supporting them. I love the dollars to circulate in the local economy. If it is bites or eating, which I do a lot of.
Me too.
It is places like Hacienda, little known place. It might be more well known after this recording. Yeah. Nick's on Broadway, I like as well. And then Los Andes is off the hook. And then El Gran Parada, if I'm coming to my south side. El Gran Parada is, everybody knows El Gran Parada, who's a Providence person. It's the food is incredible. And then El Carolina is also on the same side of town. Shout out to the Carolina, that whole family, which is a great family, the Carolina team. They have some great food as well on the same side of town. And when I used to eat wieners, it was wieners in Olneyville. Yeah. Yeah.
What does community mean to you?
Community. So it's funny, a lot of people throw around the word community and they think it has one meaning, right? Community is to me the sum total of where you're at, the people that the people coming together that make that experience of where you're at, from different walks of life. That's the best way I can say it. It's not just one thing. People that say the word and think it's just one thing. I always kind of in my mind shake my head. The community it should be made up of all different people from all different walks of life who are living and co-creating in the same kind of ecosystem. That's really what a community is. You can slice that into more granular kind of subsets of community. So there can be the African American community, there can be the BIPOC community, there can be the Latinx community. But when you say community, it's all of those coming together, right? Along with artisans, along with business owners. That's really community if you give it that broad label. And then I think there are different subsets within that community. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And what's something happening in Rhode Island right now that excites you?
So what's happening in Rhode Island right now that excites me is a once in a lifetime opportunity with the American Rescue Plan dollars. You don't know this, but you will now.
Yeah.
So last week I was part of the African American. I've been part of the African American Ambassador Group for 2 years, which is a group of 40 to 80 people that come together weekly on Zoom. It's actually after this meeting, I'll be joining that meeting via Zoom. And essentially, we talk through 9 subgroups about food insecurity, about crime and incarceration, education, internal policies. All of that is discussed every week with ideas, suggestions. Some of the things that have come out of that group is removing the name plantations from the city. I was part of that internal team. Like if you look at it, you'll see Lanre Ajakaiye there. I don't tout it much, but I was part of the internal team that helped to fuel, because this had started years ago with one of the councilwomen. So credit where credit is due, but we helped to revive it and bring it back and make it a campaign that then influenced the state, and then the state took it off. So I was part of that whole thing. So what excites me with the African American Ambassador Group, Sue, is last week I led the team to present to the task force of the American Rescue Plan on an ask from the African American community within the AAGA, or within the African American Ambassador Group, on a $28 to $97 million ask across affordable housing, really reflecting people whose incomes aren't like where they should be, right? Or not where they should be, I'm sorry, who don't have the highest incomes, right? Not just, because affordable housing, some people use the term, but then people who aren't making a high wage are left out of it, which never makes sense to me if it's affordable housing. But across affordable housing, youth investments, community investments, that proposal went into the task force last week. It will go to the council within a week or two for vote. So it's really exciting that they could, as well as then it will go to the mayor, they could vote to approve something that would be historic, even more than the removal of the name plantations, which would actually go towards underrepresented, disadvantaged groups that are boots on the ground, but typically off the radar. And they would actually have money that generationally could change a lot of outcomes for decades and forever. There are sustainability measures in there, there are accountability measures in there. That proposal really excites me because if it gets a yes, not only is it historic for the state of Rhode Island, it would probably be written about in the nation, but the 50 plus organizations that are listed in there, they're not the ones that typically receive funding. They're the ones that, if I mention most of the organizations to most people, they don't even know them, right? But anybody that's a Providence community person, if you said we got next, they would say, oh yeah, the one that happens in the South Side, that 700 to 900 kids a year play summer league for, and they only have to pay $25, and it keeps them out of trouble. And it's at the Met playgrounds. Of course, I know we got next,
Yeah.
but that organization may not know how to do the glitzy RFPs or the grant writing, but they're doing the work for over a decade.
Yeah.
So organizations like that are in this proposal for the African American Ambassador Group. It'll go to council within a week or two. Council will vote, and again, it could be pretty historic what happens, and I would imagine it's going to be written about throughout the nation. Organizations that are here could really be transformed, and it would reach the people that have been overlooked for generations and decades. That really excites me. So it's not about me. People know about my project. People know about 25 Bough Street. They know about what Lanre is doing. My leading the charge on that was to make sure that I was being a servant leader and making sure that I advance people that normally they're overlooked because they don't know these processes of legislation. They just know they want to serve the people.
Yeah.
So that excites me.
Oh, that's the perfect place for us to end, because that's just amazing. And now I'm really excited about that. I'm going to look up that proposal and watch for
no worries.
for meetings. Yeah.
No, yeah, they're it's there. I mean, I think they've been publishing all the presentations on YouTube. So it should be on YouTube soon. I didn't go look to see if it's up yet, but you'll see in the YouTube, because the survey that they did to the community, they clearly said that the African American voice was underrepresented or under indexing. So I thought it was particularly cool that they now got 20 to 25 leaders from the African American community that all presented. It wasn't just me presenting. It was like one after the other. And it's, Funda Fest with Valerie Tutson and Len Cabral of the storytellers. There are organizations you would know. Emancipation Day, Juneteenth. All those organizations are in there for funding. And it could be pretty incredible. So we'll see what happens.
Incredible. Okay, I'm going to send the thoughts, and I will tell my council person that I am very excited.
Who's your council person?
Nerva Love Fortune.
Oh, Nerva, yeah. So Nerva is part of the task force.
Yeah.
So Nerva got the presentation live, direct. Nerva will, obviously, I don't know which way she's going to give the recommendation to the council, which she's part of. Nerva gets it. She knows the organizations. She's within the community at a way that the organizations aren't going to surprise her. But she was we presented to Nerva. Nerva was one of the people.
Oh, great. So, that's true.
Yeah. So, so it should be cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
But still send it to her anyway that you want it approved. So definitely. Yeah.
And everyone watching, make sure you tell your council people that if you live in Providence, that this is important to you.
Yeah, it's the groups that have been under the radar for decades upon decades. And we are at a place where we can make history and really serve them. Or I fear, not that I fear because I'm an optimist, but I fear if they're overlooked again during a time when there's over 1.2 billion in the state, that it could disenchant people forever. Because so it could go either way, but I'm an optimist that I think it's gonna have a positive outcome. So that's where I'll leave it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lanre. This has been amazing.
No worries.
I
Was this good?
Can't wait to see 25 Bough. And I hope everyone watching goes to check it out and finds ways.
Yeah, it's coming. And if anybody watching, my email is lanre@25bough.com. If there are within the use cases ways that you think you can amplify the efforts, ways that you think your organization wants to be part of the efforts, or ways that you think you want to help empower the community, I'm all ears. Send me an email. I'm all ears, and let's get our state moving in the right direction, collaborate, and take it to another level. That's kind of how I look at it.